Okay, good evening again. It is Thursday, October 8th, 2019. This is a workshop of the 5 members of the town board of the town of Waukesha. We're beginning the workshop here at 7:14 p.m. and we are going to be talking about budget. It's a workshop on the operating budget for 2020 for the town of Waukesha. We began the process, as you might recall, I believe that was a week ago, yesterday night on September 30th, and we got some way downstream with that. Kathy's been working on that since then and sent out a couple of revisions to that. I think, has everybody got a document in front of you? I've got one dated 10/7/2019. Looks like it was printed 11:09 a.m. that shows a paper deficit in the budget of $29,134.46. Has everybody got that document? And Kathy, is that our starting point for discussion? Has everybody got that document? Thank you. There were, and we can jump into this wherever you want. I think Kathy also sent some stuff out during the week. There was some request for additional information was asked for regarding history of fire department run calls, which she's got. There's also been some information exchanged back and forth about insurance. There was a question about health insurance coverage. Kathy, maybe even when you've passed those out, why don't you just even spend just a real quick minute to refresh people or update people on some of the additional information or changes you made during the past.
Good night all. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Always well done.
I'm going to save you some money on your budget.
You can stay and watch if you want some additional.
There you go.
I think I'll catch it on YouTube.
All right.
Just don't do it while you're driving home.
No.
Thank you, Attorney Macy.
Not with my loaner car.
Do you want to just kind of give a refresher on additional information, some of the modifications you made since we let this be
Sure.
a week ago last night?
So I made a change on dog license year-end revenue. When I first started the budget, we were at a different level. We were over that amount, so I just made that, updated that amount. It's a very, very small amount. Our copies per year, I changed the proposed, brought it to 122, looking at 2016 to 2018's. I averaged those, and the average is 122. I had changed that to, I'm sorry, I should have kept it on my page, but, to 100. Then ambulance fees, year end I changed, as well as the proposed 2020. Taking a look at the 2019, our monthly is 10,100 with an increase runs for this year. I took a look at 16, 17, and 18. Averaged those out, came to 128,000. So I increased the ambulance fees revenues from 100 to 120, still being conservative. Culverts, the same thing, taking a look at 16, 17, and 18. The average was 28.6. And I changed that to 25,000, still being conservative. Our expense changes were the auditing support. When we spoke last time, I wanted to check with Workhorse and see what the difference was. I brought that down to $28.50. That's exactly what Workhorse is going to do. They're not going to increase this year. They're going to increase the following year, 2021. Health insurance numbers came in. They came in much lower because our surcharge responsibilities have been met. And I put that in the plan. That reduced the health insurance. That reduced us quite a bit. I gave you a chart breakdown of 25-75, which I've put in the plan, 70-30, which you've asked me to, and then I also put in the savings for the town, or the staff increase would be if we went to from 75-25 to a 70-30. Also, the fire department runs, you requested, Dan put that together. He put the runs together for us. I took the salary and wages from the 16, 17, 18, and currently 19. You have a breakdown of where we were as of the 1st of October in all of those years to compare, and then the total salaries. Average run costs I've put on this sheet as well, and then I filled in the 380, which is where you brought his salary and wages down. I multiplied that out using the same cost per run from 2019 to get to about 640 runs. So that's where I'm at.
Why don't, just a suggestion, why don't we take those things that Kath had reported on, the changes we made, and why don't we go through any questions that anybody would have on those questions, comments, recommendations for changes or what or not with what she did in the past week? And we can always come back to it, but I mean, is there anything that we want to discuss on the actual changes you made on the document you're looking at?
I have none.
Nothing? Just a quick thing, and it doesn't change the numbers, you have to think about it, but you got some clarity understanding those line items we've got liability insurance, and understood you took the total amount and you allocated that and spread it across 3 areas. Is there a way, it's maybe a little bit of a thing, but that is also workers' compensation insurance?
That is.
Is there any way to, or doesn't that fit, is there any way to add that to that tagline, if you will, or what or not? That it's liability and workers' compensation insurance, or is that
Change the,
mess with everything, just a descriptor of it?
if you want that changed, I can change
I mean,
it.
just look at it, I'm just saying, I mean, this is, we go back.
It's our insurance.
This comes as, this is one policy that covers all that. I know you sent me the breakout on the pricing on that, but this is basically one policy, is it?
That's correct.
I'm just
It's our
saying,
workman's
just,
comp. It's different, we have different vendors. Hurton gets us the package, but
Understand.
we have different insurance, companies that we
Okay.
use.
let's not get lost in that tonight, but I'm just thinking it might be more user-friendly if it simply said like liability and workers' compensation insurance, but let's not get lost at that at the moment. We're working on
That's
numbers
also our
tonight.
bond, our blanket bond, and we just didn't have a cost of blanket bond
Yeah,
this year
okay.
because we've done, so it's all of our insurance.
It's
just not
all of
health,
the insurance. It's
all
not just
insurance.
liability. It's
Right, it's
all
of
all
health.
other than health insurance is
Right,
what it is.
that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
So as I understand it, with the adjustments that we've made, and as it stands of the printing of 10/7 at 11:09, we're $29,134.46 negative out of balance. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I've looked at this pretty hard over the last 24 hours, and I'm not comfortable cutting or anywhere else. It would be my suggestion that we reduce the capital allocation from 400,000 to 378,6554. That would change our proposed budget for 2020 in general property tax revenues. That's the top line number there. That would change from 1,275,442 to 1,304,576.46, and that would bring us into balanced budget. So ultimately, what my proposal would be to reduce our capital allocation, the allocation of property taxes to the capital fund, from $400,000 to $370,865.54. That would be my suggestion. I'm not comfortable squeezing anything more out of this. I think the work we did on the fire department, in my opinion, the numbers justified exactly what we did by almost mere coincidence. The runs are increasing at an annualized rate of 5.6% from 2016 to what we'll probably have in 2020. taking into account the significant increases in the part-time staff salaries. That last year, I think that 380 falls pretty much right where it should be. We did a lot of work on the salary and the DPW with the, at least for the time being, temporary elimination of another full-time staff, or of a requested full-time staff, I should say. I think we are very, very lucky that some of the insurance came to our favor. I think the adjustments made in revenue for ambulance fees and for culvert installation, which when we walked out of here the other day, we were at 81,000. That made up a nice 22,000, and I think it's still a decent conservative number. So I just don't see anywhere else where I would be comfortable eliminating from the expense side.
Okay. Let's just go at it this way. The 380, and last time we chewed that back from, I think it was a 398 something.
Correct.
So we chewed that back to the 380. Let's just kind of go down the line based on all this additional information, everything. Mike said he's comfortable at the 380. I'm comfortable at the 380. I guess I'd look for the rest of the three of you to weigh in at whether you're comfortable at that number or want something more or less.
I'm comfortable at the 380.
I'm gonna agree with Mike. I think that we squeezed a lot out. And
Okay, so you're good at 380 for fire department salaries?
I can go along with that.
Okay, so it looks like we got everybody agreeing with that. Let's just run down, and she's got the sheet in front of you. Ask her to look at going from 75-25 to 70-30. So employees would contribute 30% instead of 25%. The potential savings on that, $4,975. Mike, are you saying that you would, you're in favor of staying at the 75-25
I am. That's what the budget reflects, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes,
at this time?
right.
I'm okay with that. What about anybody else?
I'm fine with that.
me also.
I'm good.
Okay, so we got those knocked off. So Mike's suggestion is to take this out of the, to make up the difference of the 29,134.46 by leaving more tax revenue in the operating budget and subtracting that equivalent amount from the capital budget. Thoughts about that? Or do you see any other areas that you think we can increase revenue or cut expenses?
The only thing I didn't see, Kathy, from the insurance company was, is there any dividend coming at all for work comp?
I did not get a dividend. We wouldn't get our dividend information until February, because our current program is the same. But if we were gonna get a dividend, I can't imagine our mod went up due to our workman comp. So
No, but it
maybe
should've-
dividend is different.
It may have been a guaranteed dividend. I know she was working on doing that, and I don't know if that ever progressed, but typically it's
I have
anywhere
not
from
heard.
20 to 30%.
Okay. I can definitely ask Deb.
Is there a consensus then that that's how we want to balance this budget? I can support that.
For the sake of progressing, yes, I can support it also.
Anybody else?
I'm on board.
Good.
Now, necessarily, that would, I think, finish the operating budget that we're looking to propose, is that right?
That's correct.
We'd be done with that, but now we need to go back into the capital budget. I don't know, do you have copies of that or not? Because we would need to make that adjustment in the capital budget, right?
Do you want me to go and make those changes?
Why don't you just do that real quick? So, I mean, I think our goal is to try to finish this off tonight, is that right?
I agree.
She's gonna come back, so why don't you do that?
I do have the finals on, or we went through the inspection, and you can look at that while I'm making these changes. But this is what it looks like all printed out. Before we had that small spreadsheet. So this gives you a little bit more to feast on. In addition, we have a debt service budget. That is the whole $27.57 that we pay for the county every year. So I have to do a budget for that. So this is a copy of that budget as well. It's a small one. And then I'll come back with the capital and the updated general. After making those couple changes, I needed to make one more change, and that was to our fund balance applied in the 400 capital was at 451. I changed it to 480 to balance. Did you have any questions on the other ones while I was out?
I have a couple. Do we, are you gonna run the copy of the capital budget then? because
It's
that
on the
has to be
back.
modified. Oh, that's
It is.
on here?
It's the last page is the capital.
Okay.
So if you turn it over, that's, one part is the rev.
Okay, I have two questions. One, and I know we went through this the last time, but on the Fund 240, Fire Inspection and Prevention, I don't understand why, I don't understand why, I might not say this real well, but we keep throwing in there their total fund balance and then taking it back out. And I maybe didn't say that
So we,
very well, but.
so one, we need the fund balance in there because our fire dues does not come in immediately. So we use some of that revenue right off the bat. We also put that in for expenses and both revenues and expenses, because if they decide they're going to buy something like a smokehouse, they've talked about a smokehouse in the past. If they're going to do that, that's where the money comes from. Anything to do with prevention and inspection. This money does not come out of our tax levy at all. It's completely fund balance, dues. It can only be used for inspection and prevention. So if they decide they're going to buy a large item, they would have that in their budget to do just that.
So let me ask that, then put it to numbers when, when we look at the public safety capital outlay, 240-57200-57200-000, that proposed budget of $68,715.83 is a public safety capital outlay. That would be the residual balance in that fund, but there's no proposal to spend that for anything at this point in time, so it's simply there. They could spend that 68,715 in pocket change for anything they wanted.
That's as long as it's within inspection and prevention. And of course, they would bring it to the board if it was anything over the 5,000 mark. So, but yes, this fund is specifically set aside for the fire department's inspection and prevention.
I understand the purpose of the, fund. That just, I guess I'm trying to get my head around that. That's all.
And maybe the chief would be able to explain that to you a little bit better, but we keep the funds for that completely separated from the general fund. One, he does the audit of this account once a year is done, and not from our audit. I mean, it is part of our full audit, but it is audited also by the state. So he has to prove what he's using these expenses for.
I understand all of that, and if this is the way it needs to be, fine. All I'm saying is at this point in time, this budget contemplates, we're basically approving the expenditure of the entire amount of money that's in that Fund 240 is what we're doing. Okay. Anybody else? I guess I've got one place I think we need to go to discuss, and that's back to the capital project fund, capital project budget, if you will. We're not going to be able to render a decision on what we are going to do tonight with the DPW truck that we purchased last year. That's on the agenda for the discussion for Thursday night. But that said, and I had this discussion a bit with Kathy, and I guess I would open up to the board for discussion. If we were to buy a new and different vehicle, we had 3 proposals from Ewald for a trade-in of that truck from Badger Truck Sales or whoever they are, depending on which option we looked at. That would be expending another roughly $20,000, give or take, on that vehicle, which was not in at least the detail of the capital budget for 2019. So if we were inclined to do that before the end of the year, the question is whether or not that would require a budget amendment or some kind of a acknowledgement or reconciliation. And Kathy can certainly speak to this. I have a point of view. I think that we would need to do something about that because we were not proposing to spend any money on a vehicle this year, and Kathy can explain a different point of view, but I guess that kind of a little bit begs the question. We're not going to vote on this tonight, but I know, Mike, the other night you said you didn't support purchasing another vehicle because we don't need it, and I guess I would kind of look to the rest of the board to weigh in on that so we got some sense of where we're going. If we're going to do a budget, if we think we need to do a budget amendment on that, we would need to have 4 people to support that, or if we're not, then there's a desire to do that. It could be put in the capital budget for next year. So that's kind of what I'm scratching my head on, and invite any of you into that conversation.
Well, I don't know that I'm comfortable having the conversation. Now, we're here for a budget workshop of the 2020 budget, and we're getting into territory about money that were our opinions about what we're going to spend now.
Well, I guess I'll leave it this way. I'm opening up the question for discussion is whether or not we should budget for the DPW truck for 2020. That's why it's pertinent to discuss at this point in time.
So now you want to go back and relook at the capital plan for 2020 to 2024?
Perhaps, yeah. We just went back and looked at it because we reduced and changed that to the tune of 29,000 some odd dollars. So we already did revisit that once tonight, just moments ago. So yeah, I think we ought to have some discussion about whether or not we should be putting something in the capital budget. I guess I would be inclined to put something in the capital budget for that for next year.
Can I say something?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so I just don't want you to mix up the capital fund or the capital budget with the project plan. So the project plan, the capital project plan 2024, you have passed that plan at a board meeting. So that's passed. The budget is something different. It reflects what you passed on that capital project last month. So I just don't want you to mix up the two. We're talking about the budget right now and not the capital project plans, because that already passed. So I don't want you to get over.
I guess the only comment that I would make, the thing that I'm raising, at least for discussion, would require an amendment to the 2020 to 24 capital plan.
Okay.
It
All
would
right.
require, I think is what
Thank
you're
you.
saying, that would require an amendment to that because
That's
we already
correct.
passed that.
That's
That is
correct.
absolutely true.
All right, thanks.
I think we're gonna have to do something because it's kinda like a rotten apple here with that truck. I looked at the orange one, the other one that they have, and I as soon as not replace that one a few years down the road and get our best deal that we can on this one right now.
If, I just got to step in here, Mr. Chairman. We're talking about a capital plan that's already been duly passed by the town board during a workshop that was noticed about the 2020 budget. I have to think back to the past guidance that I've been given from Attorney Macy about how we look at our notices and what's legal to talk about. I mean, if somebody would come to us and say, Well, if I'd have known you were gonna talk about the capital plan that you passed at the last meeting, I would have shown up at the workshop to attend. I mean, I don't know how we can talk about a capital plan that's been passed by the board when we noticed in our meeting notice that we're here to talk about the 2020 budget. Those are two different things, as the administrator pointed out. I don't know how we can talk about the capital plan at all at this point.
Let me correct you for a minute. The first thing you said, we did not pass the capital project plan during a workshop. That was done
No,
during
it
a
was
town
during-
board meeting, right?
That's what I meant to say.
Okay, it was passed during a town
was
board meeting.
passed by the town
So yes,
board.
that would require an amendment to it.
So I don't understand how
Well,
we can
well,
talk
may I
about the
finish?
capital plan.
May I finish for a minute? Okay. We are talking about capital budget tonight, okay?
We are.
Workshop. We're talking about budgets for a workshop. And the thing that I'm pointing out to you, I guess, then address this question. Do you think it is appropriate to expend money to buy a new DPW truck from this year's capital budget, if you will, without a budget amendment? Would you support that, or do you think that's appropriate?
I would say you would have to bring that up at a properly noticed meeting, which this is not for that topic.
Okay,
That's just my 2 cents. I'm not trying to be argumentative, but we're talking about things that weren't noticed.
I understand.
So, just so we stay within that notice, would another way of saying it, say that do you want to consider a $75,000 increase in the 2020 proposed budget, capital budget, to purchase a new vehicle in 2020 to replace the.
Right. That's an appropriate discussion for the meeting tonight. Would you agree with that, Supervisor Durr?
As long as we're talking about the 2020 budget, and we're not talking about a capital plan, and we're not talking about a 2019 budget.
We're talking about a 2020 budget.
Very good.
So would you agree, if there was a desire to do that, that would be an appropriate thing to do tonight?
What is your question?
What Kathy just posed to you.
Could you repeat that, please?
That we add a $70,000 to our 2020 proposed capital budget for Public Works to purchase a new vehicle in 2020 to replace a current vehicle.
Do we have to propose that amount, being that we know what we know about
But we,
everything that has happened prior?
no, you can propose as much as you want to put in. I was just giving you a number. The cost of the Ewald, the quotes we got were were just under 70,000. You took the discount off, plus you took the vehicle off, but that vehicle isn't going to be worth the same. They're not going to give us the same amount in 2020 that they're going to give us now. Is why I figured you'd have to sell this one to buy a new one and put that one in the next budget, that's all.
And if you want to do that, I think what she's tossed out there would be the way to do it, because, and it's not for discussion tonight, but that other vehicle could be sold before the end of the year, and those proceeds go back into the fund as of this year and so forth. So if there's an inclination to do that, the clean way would be to put in a number for the purchase of a new vehicle next year and put it in the 2020 to 24 capital, for the 2020 capital budget.
I guess that's the way I would go with it at this point. I guess I'd like to see that other truck sold sooner the better, because it's not gaining value as time goes on, just through depreciation, so.
I think I'll just add one thing to it. I think the way this board has proceeded in the past, and I would think it would be appropriate going forward, even if we've got line items in the budget in the capital budget, be it for facilities, for roads, for equipment, for some of those general government things. Historically, each time one of those purchases to be made, it's brought before the board for approval. I think that's the way we've historically done it. I don't see that changing in the future. It doesn't, and gosh knows we've got plenty of history to it. It doesn't commit the town board next year, in my judgment, to that expenditure if they see otherwise, but at least it would be put in there as a placeholder that could be done if the town board is dealing with that issue next year, and it could be done without a budget amendment. So it would be a placeholder. Is that right, Kathy, in essence?
That's correct.
So if we put it in a 2020 budget, then it doesn't need an amendment later on, we just go ahead and it's already appropriated for, correct?
Correct. And again, in my judgment, it's not committing to spending that money. I mean, we have plenty of history
Right.
with that comes back when we have a specific proposal. It would need a consent of a majority of the board, I think, to expend that money. I mean, that's what we've done historically.
So we can just put it in the budget, it doesn't have to necessarily mean we're gonna buy a truck. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I can support that.
Do we have a number? Do we have a number? How much would you like to put in the budget?
I'm trying to get the number, what was it, 68,000, is that correct?
So I rounded it to 70.
Works for me.
I'm okay at the 70. What about anybody else?
I'll support that. We have to do something with that truck.
Jim, Mike?
I wouldn't support increasing it, not at all.
Nor would I. I'm not gonna support an increase of a truck that I don't think we need.
Okay, do you think we need the truck, Jim?
No. It's been proven. It's been sitting for a year. Haven't used it. Why would you buy another truck? To have it
Okay.
sit?
Well, I guess the question would be then, why did we buy it in the first place? We're not gonna get into that tonight,
I
but
guess, that's a
That's
question
not
you
what
should
we're here
ask
to
our
talk about.
DPW department. But, yeah, we're here to talk about an increase of $70,000, and I don't support that at all. End
I
of
understand.
discussion.
Okay. So, we've got 3 that support it and 2 that don't. Then I guess you put that into the capital budget. You wanna run a copy of that quick before we leave tonight,
I can do that.
please?
And then for the 24th, I bring back the capital. Do you want us
Yes.
to bring back the capital? Okay.
The capital plan would have to be amended, correct? Well, she's doing that. Anything else to discuss about any of these multiple budgets, or are we finished then that she can go ahead and publish these? Last chance, if anybody wants to double back on any of this.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to work with Jerry from now on if there's any future equipment that needs to be purchased, and then I'll bring it to the board and with, different specs and different prices.
Okay, that's probably not for discussion tonight,
I know, for later.
some other time.
Just throwing it out there though.
Thank you.
Should be fall colors, oranges and.
So, so I increased the Public Works from 320,000 to 390, but then for revenues, I needed to increase our fund balance applied to 550,934 to give us a zero budget.
Okay. Is there anything else to talk about any of the 2020 budgets? Okay, if there's nothing more, then at 7:57 PM, Thursday, October 8th, 2019, we will close the workshop, and we have no need for any further workshops. Thank you.